I've got a cute little sugar cookie in front of me in the shape of an Easter egg, and I'm going to do two techniques on this. First, I'm going to outline and then flood the cookie, so it gives me a nice even base overall. And then I'm going to let that harden, and I'm going to come back for round 2 and put some pretty details on top of this. So I'm starting with my icing bag, and as you can see, I've got a little band here. Wilton makes these great bands, and I just got it secured so that my icing doesn't come out of the other end. That's really helpful when you have people who don't know how to ice, have never worked with an icing bag, or young children who just have a little bit harder muscle control. So when you squeeze icing out of your bag, you always put it between your thumb, your forefinger here, and you squeeze from the top towards the tip. Always make sure you're right back here, way at the base. Even as you use the icing, you just keep moving your hand down, but it's always at the back of the icing. And then the tip, I'm going to guide this tip with my index finger. My left hand's driving it, my index finger is steering. So you're going to come down and just start by touching down here on the cookie, but then lift up your tip and then start moving. And just gently squeeze, and just don't go faster than your icing. It's easy to say, can be a little harder to do. But let the icing do the work. It will make a nicer line if it can fall. Keeps it nice and smooth. And you just come back there. That little extra blob, just draw that towards the middle, because we're going to fill all of this in the same color. If you want a secondary color, then when you get towards the end, don't move as fast as I was moving, and you'll be able to make a cleaner edge. So now I just come back in and I fill everything. So I've got my left hand driving this. Now I'm a left-handed person, so you might be doing this the opposite way from me. Fill in the whole cookie. You can see that I've got a couple little gaps here. Not worried about that. We're going to fix them. I'm going, a little bit neatly. And the tip I have on this bag is a number 2, so I can only go as fast as the icing will flow out of that tip. There's no point in over squeezing or trying to rush it. It just doesn't make a good result. So just be patient. Number 3 tips are really good for this technique too. Okay, so I've got my cookie outlined and flooded, but it's not looking real pretty just yet. The last couple, there's 2 steps actually. One, I'm going to use my scribe tool again, and I'm just going to come in, and anywhere where I have these little holes, just going to fill them in. And I just do small circular motions to do that. The other thing you can do while you're here is if you wanted this to come out anymore, you can start pushing it out just a little bit, and those small circular motions will keep a nice rounded edge. Then I can always come kind of back in and backfill a little bit too, just so you get the round edge there. And just keep going. I've got another little area here where I might want to fill that in, so I'll push that out while I'm filling in those gaps. You can see, or probably hear that noise. That's just the needle actually hitting down on the cookie. It can touch down, and it doesn't have to touch down, so don't worry about it. And you just get in here and fill that in, and look at how nice those edges start to look. So it still looks a little bit lumpy in the middle, and I fortunately don't have any air bubbles that are popping up that I can see, so that's nice. But if I did, I would just come back in and I would just pop them with this scribe tool also. You definitely want to get those out before it hardens, because they will show up. So now that I've done all of that work, I'm just going to take the cookie, and I have 2 options here. I could just leave it alone, but I did work with an icing that's on the somewhat firm side for this technique, so I'm just going to pick it up and just give it a little shake. That's one way to even it out. Or I can even just drop it a couple of times. Just grab it by the edges and drop it. So either technique will work to help start smoothing it out. And then you can just let this dry and come back and we can do some pretty artwork on top of it. So we have our cute little Easter egg cookie here that we've put on a outline and flood with the blue, and it's hardened now for us. And I'm going to do just a simple design that you could easily recreate. All it takes is, I have my icing. I have a size 1 tip in here, so a really tiny tip. It gives me a lot of control, and a slightly firmer icing. Now, before I go ahead and finish the design work, I'm going to go ahead and put some leaves on these flowers as well. So I have my scribe tool, and I'm just going to go ahead and start pulling my design. Now, I'm going to come back in, and I have these cute little, they're not very little actually, kind of oversized pearls. And unfortunately I took the wrapping off, but I believe it's a Wilton product. And anywhere in my flowers, like this one doesn't really have a center, I'm going to go ahead and just give it a little more center. Maybe fill that one in, because I want a little bed to place that pearl in. And that's why I like having these rather large petals, because I definitely want them to show up around the outsides. And I just use my fingers for this. You could come in with a tweezer if you wanted, if you had something that you could use for food. But just drop that pearl in and press it down. Make sure it's snugged into its little bed of icing. Now you could do an entire plate like this with just the blue, or you could make a series of colors. You could mix the colors and have just different flowers, all the same background. You could have a plate of cookies that has a blue cookie with the blue centers and a pink background with the pink center, and use the white and the green on every cookie. You can get really creative with this, and it's a very simple, pretty design, and it will go over huge with your friends and family. I hope you try it.